Welcome to Hair Hero, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of the best in the business to uncover what makes them tick and sometimes what makes them twitch. I'm your host, Ryan Whedon, founder of Masters of Balayage and creator of Masters Academy. Join me each week for impactful conversations with industry leaders, icons, influencers, and trendsetters. Get ready to be inspired, learn from the pros, and maybe even have a laugh or two. Because let's face it, if we can't have fun talking about hair, we're doing it wrong. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back. I've got Don Bradley here. The crowd goes wild. Get ready for masterclass. No, I was kidding. But we're here. I don't know where this is going to go. I didn't sleep a lot last night, and it shows. The weirdness comes out, but you guys like a little bit of weird, right? Anyway, I've got another fellow weirdo here. We all love Dawn. She is amazing. I love everything that you stand for.
Thank you.
I want to pick your brain a little bit on kind of like what makes you tick, where you came from, where you're going. We'll be here for a couple of days talking about this because I know there's a lot of life lessons here.
Yeah.
But thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited that you're weird as well.
Yeah.
Makes me feel right at home. So let's get into it. Yeah.
Well, so tell me a little bit. So you do hair still, or you don't do hair? When did you get into the whole hair business?
Like I became a hairstylist in 2001.
Okay.
As something that I thought was like a secondhand throwaway career. But when I really started getting serious about business was in 2010 when I started my own business. And I went out on my own and I did things all the wrong way the first time. And I got really passionate about educating other people in, I believe it was 2018. So in 2016, I hit complete burnout. I'd been pushing myself to the limit, ended up in the hospital thinking I was dying from a stroke. Turns out it was a stress-induced panic attack. And from that moment on, I vowed to help other people avoid that at all costs because it's really easy to grow a business all the wrong ways and not be able to build something long-term sustainable. Right. So that's the Coles Note version of my career.
Well, you said that you did everything the wrong way at first. Was that basically when you started hair, 2001 to 2010? Or you did everything the wrong way when you started your business in 2010?
Yeah, I would say I did it the wrong way when I started my business. I remember having worked, I'd worked for a great salon in my hometown. I'd also gone overseas to the UK and Australia and worked over there. And I had all these different ideas of how I would do things if it was my own business. And definitely some naive belief that I had the right way figured out. And when I have my own business, I would do it this way because. And so when I left the salon that I was in, I remember thinking like, I'm going to rock this customer service thing. And the reality was I wasn't good at customer service. I just had a complete lack of boundaries. And I viewed it as a great customer service. Like,
were you in your 20s?
I was 27.
Yeah, 20s.
Yeah.
20s is when you think you have it all figured out.
Yeah. And I was so
30s
proud.
Slaps you in the face. You're like, all right, I didn't know anything.
And, I never said no to a client. I'd always come in whenever they asked. And I had so much pride in like, I'm so good at this. And it filled me up to hear people telling me how good I was doing. And so I got this ego, which I always say, I didn't come across egotistical. It came across very humble, and I was a people pleaser. And ego has a sneaky way for us people pleasers in convincing ourselves that we're such good people.
Right.
And really it's your ego like thriving off of telling me like, oh, thank you so much, or no one else can do my hair. And I lived off of that. And that was my identity. And that was my value and worth as a human. And so the more I could make people need me, the more I felt like I was a valuable human. And it was a really hard reality lesson to realize that, no, it was just a business transaction.
I always get a little cringy when I hear somebody say, oh no, you can trust me. Tell me you can trust me. Or like you had just said, what did you say? You said, gosh.
I don't know either.
I'm telling you, it's caffeine fueled self today. But if somebody says you can trust me, or yeah, I'm a good person, that's what it was. Like, well, prove it. I'm not just going to take your word for it. I feel like people that are constantly telling people they're a good person, or that no, I'm a really good person, or I'm really a good tipper. It's like they're trying to justify themselves for all their maybe their sins or the things that they do that's not so commonly liked, that they're like, well, I make up for it here, even if they're not. They're just trying to make themselves put themselves on a pedestal.
And I find like true confidence, people almost get offended by, because you don't need that. When you have like true confidence in yourself, you don't need the external validation.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, like, why aren't they overly apologetic? Right. And when you thrive on the external validation, it's almost more socially acceptable, where, you know, you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Or, you know, when you have that confidence and trust in yourself, you're not asking for other people's approval.
Right.
And that's where, I mean, compassion comes into it. But yeah, I definitely, like, everything was like feeding off of other people telling me I was worthy and valuable through my career. And so when I had my breaking point, I was like, wait, who am I outside of this? And that was huge.
So you have a long history of, you said you had a panic attack, a major panic attack, that once you thought you were having a stroke and dying, you went to the hospital. And I understand that, because I did the same thing in college. I had this panic attack. I didn't know it was a panic attack. I thought I was dying because I was happened to be doing drugs at the time. and I was doing a lot of drugs at the time, and I thought that I'm gonna OD. I'm dying. I'm gonna OD. So I went to the hospital and I told them, I'm like, I think I'm ODing. I took a bunch of ecstasy. I don't know what's going on. Please don't let me die on this table. They put all these heart monitors on to me, and after an hour, well, probably more like 7 hours, because the hospital, they take forever. They're like, you're fine. Nothing came back. Your heart's good. Your breathing's good. I'm like, I don't feel good. Something's not right. They're like, here's some Gatorade and a Tylenol. Go home.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like this was in the mid 90s.
Okay.
About 96.
Okay.
95, 96, when this was happening. Panic attacks weren't talked about, weren't common. Mental health wasn't talked about, wasn't common. So I know that you go there, and the nurses and the doctors, they just want to keep you alive at the hospital. That's all they care about. You're not dying. Okay, you can leave now, figure out your issues somewhere else, right? But I went to doctors after that, and the guy's like, I think you had a panic attack. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Wow.
And that's when I started a whole journey of trying to learn how to deal with it, try different medications to mitigate it, because it was debilitating for a long time.
Yeah. It's almost like when your awareness is created around it, it almost feels like it gets worse. Because I self-medicated for a long time. I wasn't diagnosed with anxiety for a really long time. And my story, I mean, when I moved in 2014 to a city where I knew no one, and I didn't go into a salon to work with other people, so I had no community in the industry, I put on this front that, like, I don't mess up, I never fail, I'm perfect. 2015 Instagram era where everything was like picture perfect. And I remember it was January 30th, 2016, that previous week I had gotten a call from Cosmoprof inviting me down to the ISSE show. And I'd have to pay my own way to come down, but they wanted me to be part of this photo shoot, and I couldn't reschedule this one client. And I thought, the time I just started my education, I was like, but my clients are still my bread and butter. And so I decided to not go, because I didn't really know what this photo shoot was about, and stayed for my client. And that client's hair fried off. I had put open air balayage on, and within 10 minutes, it was like smoking and like on fire, and I didn't know what was happening. I remember taking her to the sink, rinsing it out. It was palest yellow, going like, oh my God, this has been my worst nightmare my entire career. Brought her back to my chair, combed it, and the hair just came with it. And at that moment, my stomach flipped, and I thought, clearly I've faked my way for the last 16 years, and this proves that I suck and I'm not worth it. And then I found out that photo shoot that I declined was the first ever artistic team for Cosmoprof. And I remember thinking, like, how did I mess up? I thought I did the honorable thing by staying for my client. And then all these people that were part of the photo shoot got this thing, and I was like, I just messed up my career. And I went into a deep, dark depression until August 30th, that same year, was when I started throwing up every 20 minutes. I started convulsing. In Canada, we can like phone and talk to a registered nurse on the phone, which is pretty cool. And they're like, I think you're having a seizure. Like, I'm coherent. Threw up like 6 times on the way to the hospital. My limbs went numb. I thought I was having a stroke. My boyfriend at the time, I was like, go get help. And he kind of like sauntered like so slowly. Cause I think internally what I was experiencing was very different than what I appeared externally. And that's what was the panic attack. I had hyperventilated so much that all the oxygen was out of my blood. My arms went numb and stiff. And I remember thinking, this is it. And that whole night where I thought, this is my last night on earth, I was thinking about work. And that's when I realized, okay, life isn't all work.
Right.
And I need to make some lifestyle changes, which has been one of the proudest things I've ever done and one of the most extremely hardest things, because my identity was so based in what I did for other people. And if I'm not working with clients, if I'm not bending over backwards, who am I?
Right. So, what was the reason for all the throwing up? Was it something you want to talk about, or was it just stress induced?
It was just stress induced. Yeah. I mean, I had pizza.
Sure. It could have been the pizza. Yeah. Yeah.
But so I threw up every 20 minutes, and to the point where it's just stomach bile. And in Canada, we're known for our free healthcare, but once again, it's not quick.
Right.
So yay, we don't have to pay for it. But I waited, I think, 6 hours continuing to throw up every 20 minutes until I saw a doctor. And I think they gave me like an Ativan and I was fine. But my body was literally purging all that stress and anxiety. And I remember I had a couple classes I was teaching in Portland and in LA. And I was like, I should just refund all the tickets. Like, who am I to be doing this?
Sure.
I don't deserve this. I'm getting everything I ever wanted. I should just go live off the land, go off grid. I mean, I'm like the least domestic person there is. So I would last like half a day, like out on the wild and be like, where's McDonald's? But I just wanted to shut it all down. I was so overwhelmed, so stressed out. And that's when I realized I need better boundaries with myself. I need better boundaries with my work and with social media.
Balayage. You know, it doesn't matter how you pronounce it. Your clients just want to know that you're good at it because they're paying a lot of money for your service. Sure, you can take a class here and there, search on YouTube, learn a hack here and there on Instagram, but it's never going to be enough, because to excel at balayage, you need structured learning with experts that have been where you are and can show you how to reach your goals. Hi, I'm Ryan Whedon, founder of Masters of Balayage and one of the first balayage experts to bring modern balayage to millions. And right now, Masters Academy, the #1 online trainer for balayage artists, is now offering lifetime memberships. That's right, no more monthly payments, no more overdrafts, just a one-time payment, and you can get over 100 hours of balayage and blonding tutorials on demand to watch and rewatch on your time. Our new Masters Academy lifetime membership also includes our 3 world-famous certification programs: the Balayage Masters Program, the Blonde Masters Program, and the Extensions Masters Program. Not only do you get to own all 3 of these now, you also get Master Certified. So if you're stuck, lacking that balayage confidence, or just need an awesome excuse to raise your prices, Masters Academy is the answer. And right now, you can save $100 off any lifetime membership. Just go to www.mobmastersacademy.com and use code MYLIFE at checkout to redeem your $100 off promotion. I'm going to say it again, so go grab a pen and write this down. Go to www.mobmastersacademy.com and use code MYLIFE and redeem your promotion now. Okay, so hospital panic attack, throwing up, panic attack, stress-induced.
Yeah. My body literally just being like, get this stress out.
And then you realize you need to do these boundaries. How did that impact you to where you are now, today, and the direction of what you're teaching?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my education, all of my education really is focused from taking care of yourself first, respecting yourself, having healthy boundaries. And I find when you've been a people pleaser, the pendulum's way over here. And oftentimes it swings way over to the other side. We overcorrect until landing in the middle. And so, I mean, 2016 feels like yesterday and also feels like forever ago. And it took me some time. I really had to reset my nervous system. I had to learn to develop an identity outside of my work while still being able to be passionate about my work, and really making sure that I built something that wasn't built off of, I was going to say blood, sweat, and tears, but like built off of me going into this high state of anxiety all the time, which is tough because that anxiety can be really motivating. And so, to be honest, I've really struggled with how can I keep myself motivated without putting myself into a position that's not good for my mental health.
Sure.
And it is a balance, because I don't want to get so comfortable that I don't push myself, but I don't want to push myself so hard that it affects my health.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish I had like the right answer, but that's really
You
why.
got a lot of answers, I'm sure, because you're being honest with yourself along the way, where at one point you realize, well, I have an ego. I got to put that in check. My ego for my exemplary customer service is not really that exemplary. I just don't have any boundaries. So people are walking all over me. They're taking advantage of me. You're probably emotionally discounting, because I know you talk about that. And this is an ongoing thing with stylists, with probably any service profession. Any position you're in where you're giving a service, whether it's a luxury service or not, but especially in the luxury service business, because I feel like there's that imposter syndrome for some of us that maybe didn't go to college, didn't spend all this time, and the person in our chair might be way more educated than us on paper, but we're making more than them. And then there's that part of us that feels like that shouldn't be right. I shouldn't be able to make more than this person and have fun doing what I do. They hate their job. They make good money, but I make actually more than them, and I love my job. I should give them a discount because I don't want them to think I'm trying to take advantage of them. How did you get through the imposter syndrome? You were just saying that you had to teach a class and you thought, like, who am I to do this? So somebody that has imposter syndrome, even just being a stylist behind the chair, who am I to give this person a balayage? They could go to anybody else. How do you overcome that, even at the foundational level?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I remember the first time I was on the phone with a friend of mine and he said imposter syndrome, and this was probably in 2015, and I was like, what's that? And he's like, sounds like that's what you've got. And I had literally just started my independent education, and I had gotten an email from these two girls that had given me a deposit to teach them privately. And the email stated that, hey, we were just really looking for advanced education, and we just had to fix one of your clients' hair, so we'd like our deposit back. And it felt like a knife went in my gut, and they twisted it. And I remember being like, who am I? Like, clearly you have to be perfect in order to do things. And that kind of started this whole, like, I shouldn't be allowed to take messy, immediate, imperfect action. But I remember someone saying, like, real imposters don't feel imposter syndrome. And I really liked that. I'm like, you know what? There isn't an arrival point. And so now I kind of ask myself, if I'm not feeling imposter syndrome, I'm not probably pushing myself hard enough. And honestly, I forget who I saw said it recently, but they said, imposter syndrome is something you only feel yourself, but clearly the people that you're working with, either they're hiring you or they're your clients, they obviously don't think you're an imposter. And so trust their opinion or trust their vision. But I wish I had like a trick to get rid of imposter syndrome. But I think looking at it from a different angle of going, this means I'm stretching and growing. Right. Because anytime I've felt it, I haven't regretted continuing moving forward. I've only regretted when I've played it safe and held back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I teach to people. You have to take, especially in an uncomfortable situation, an uncomfortable role, that's where we always feel that imposter syndrome, because not only do we really not know what's expected of that particular role, we don't know how to put ourselves into that and what to expect and what people are expecting of us. But in order to get through imposter syndrome, you got to put yourself into that uncomfortable growth territory. I'd say take bold action, take immediate action, take constant action, because the more you put yourself out there, the further you put yourself out there, the closer you'll get to it in a comfort level. Your comfort bubble will grow to start to meet that. And then you're going to feel more and more like, hey, you know what? I am a dad. I guess I am kind of getting this thing. I got two kids, they're 5 and 3 now. And I'm starting to figure this out, even though every day, every age is new. Yeah. Now I have more confidence after having years of data, because I've actually been trying to be a very present, very good father, not just because I, gave something to my wife to make it all happen, but because it's like the kids are happy, they're healthy, we're doing something right. So it's like I understand, like I know what I'm doing, and I don't know what's coming up in the future, but I have the confidence now to know that whatever happens, I'll handle it.
And what just came to mind was the biggest thing that's actually helped me when I feel nervous or an imposter syndrome is that feeling sticks with me only when I'm trying to be something I'm not. And so learning to be my full weirdo self And I mean, even when I spoke at the Hero event, I came out and like talked about nervous pooping beforehand. And some people cringe, but it obviously like letting people know how I feel and being able to confidently talk about, hey, I'm nervous right now. Or like letting a client know, like, you know what, I want to say yes to doing that service, but I got to be honest, that's not my area of expertise. And I don't feel like I'd be able to get you what you want.
Yeah.
Being able to be honest and transparent has been the biggest flex in building trust with people. And also, instead of over promising, I'm able to actually under promise and over deliver. And so being actually more transparent and more honest about what's going on internally actually invites people in. Because I find I used to try to like, you know, have it all together and be perfect.
Sunglasses, hat.
Yeah. And
I'm
like,
an influencer.
I don't mess up coffee. And it actually made me build this persona that I couldn't maintain. And so the moment that I kind of took a breath and was like, hey, I am a hot mess. I flub up my words. I trip over things like, and this is just who I am. And that's, I don't need to apologize about it. And I'm going to let people in. One, I've built better connections with clients. I've made closer friends because you attract what you are. And so when you're not being yourself, you attract people that aren't in line with actually who you are. And then you're just this constant state of anxiety of like, I can't maintain this persona. And so, yeah, just letting your freak flag fly, I feel like.
Freak flag fly. I love that.
I think really like being your authentic self, being your weirdo self, learning that that's okay. And for the wrong people, it's not going to be, but you're going to build those better connections and better understanding. And your business and your relationship with your clients will just grow because of it.
Right. I like how you said too, sometimes if you're nervous, you can kind of call yourself out on it or throw yourself under the bus. Just be like, gosh, I don't know why, I'm just really nervous today.
Yeah.
You guys, anybody feel nervous at all? And what it does is it brings in that rapport, that relatability, that they're like, oh, they're just like me. That makes them think maybe one day I can do this because we share a lot of the same similarities. And if I work hard and my goal is to be on a stage or be teaching a class, maybe I can do that. She's not some superhuman, or he's not somebody that was born from day one and forced to do this.
Yeah.
They chose to do it. And they're flawed.
Like there's often times where I'm like, I'm just me. I don't get why people like think I'm anything special. I don't know if that's to my own detriment, but sometimes you forget because you're just yourself, how other people might view it, and inviting people in on the experience. I remember the first time I spoke, I'd always dreamed of speaking on stages. And my very first opportunity, I was so nervous and I came out and I went, oh, my pits are so sweaty. And everybody laughed. And that was when I realized like, oh, letting people in on the experience, and everyone can relate to that. And most people use those things to keep them from taking the steps forward. Like, oh, I'd be too nervous. Like I've always wanted to, but I'd be too nervous. Maybe they want to become an educator, or maybe they want to get into balayage, but they've always, done things in a certain way. It's being willing to take that step out of your comfort zone the first time. It's not that you and I have anything figured out, or that I always say I didn't have this like halo that came down from the heavens anointing me with confidence. It took practice and being willing to fail a lot of limes.
I liken it to almost a video game where it's like you have different levels.
Yeah.
And just because we're maybe at a different higher level than some people are, doesn't mean that they can't get there with practice, with commitment.
If I can do it, anyone can.
Yeah. It takes that focus, it takes that drive. Yeah. And I think it is more in some of us than it is in others, that drive, but it also, we all have dreams.
Yeah.
And what are our dreams? Once we get clear on that, I think it helps us with our internal GPS, helps us focus on where we want to go. I think that's the first step on really getting the most out of life. What are your dreams, and are you doing what it takes to get there? Are you moving in that direction? You have an analogy that you use in your masterclass too, where staircase. A lot of people are trying to go up to the top of the staircase in one big step, and you're just like, that's, even if you could get there,
kind of weird.
Sure, it'd be really weird if you had some serious long legs. But even if you could get there in one step, all those steps that you missed in between were experience. So if something happens at the top that you would have normally dealt with on the way here, suddenly you're going to be knocked all the way back down to the bottom. Whereas if you're systematically going up all these different steps of experience to different level 1, level 2, level 3, something happens at the top, it might just drop you down a little bit, but you'll know how to fix it right away and get right back on there.
Totally.
It's not going to strike you out of the blue.
Yeah. And I think, people just need to be willing that those small inconsistent, Small
Be as inconsistent as you
inconsistency.
can,
Yeah.
especially with your Instagram. Just kidding.
Small insignificant steps people really undervalue.
Mm-hmm.
And connections and relationships are, I feel like that's the most important thing. And being willing to, I think, drop our egos and thinking we have to have it all figured out before. I mean, you were saying earlier today when we were talking that just start before you're ready. And I really think that's the biggest thing that I've learned is start, like, it's so easy to get into that procrastinating of like, okay, like, let me get it all figured out so that then I can do it confidently. But the reality is you just got to start and the confidence comes.
I say, bless you.
Oh, I spit all over. Let me keep that in.
Give her a tissue.
Gross.
Yeah. But do you need a tissue?
I think, do I have it all over my face?
No,
I think I'm okay.
No, I think you're
I'm good. I'm
You're
good.
Good.
Thank
okay.
you.
Like I like the phrase "done is better than perfect" because perfect is really hard to achieve, and if you're always striving for perfection, you're going to be disappointed most of the time.
Yeah, and completely unrelatable.
Yeah. I saw this quote recently. This other quote on this. It said, when talking about done is better than perfect, well, define done. What does done mean?
Yeah.
Because for some, done might mean perfect. Because if you're trying to start something and you're not sure if you're ready to, let's say, launch a new course, teach your first class, do your first Instagram reel, whatever that is, what's good enough to get started? You need to define what done is. Okay, so done is, I shot one video, I have a sales page, for online education, and people can actually pay, and I can actually start making money off it. Is that done? Or is done, I need to have 12 videos all synchronized for this, or if I have a class, I have to have all my tickets sold before I actually say, okay, we're really having this class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is done just like, I have a date, I set a date, and it's a hard date, I have a salon that's gonna host it. There's no tickets sold yet, but I'm going to announce it. Is that done? So defining done is also important.
Yeah, I remember when I started educating and like announcing a class was so scary because I'm like, what if nobody buys a ticket? And I'm like, no one else will know if no one buys a ticket. It was like this whole emotional, or same with moving to a new city where I knew no one and starting to accept clients. And like, what if nobody books in? And I think the what ifs and the fear can hold us back, and then actually is like the predictor of not being successful because, I'm scared to be seen and scared to be seen trying because what if I don't get the result I want? But then the other option is don't do it. Don't put yourself out there for new clients, or don't put the class out there and for sure not get it. And so being willing to like drop our ego and our pride. And for me, I think it came to, why am I doing this? And it's to serve other people. It's either to serve my clients and have them feel good, or to serve my students and help them develop their confidence and better boundaries and a better business, and realizing it's not about me. And so I need to stop worrying about how I appear to people.
Sure.
Easier said than done.
Sure. Of course. Then also it's like you have to decide, well, what's the alternative? If I don't do this, if I don't teach classes, or if I don't try to promote my classes, then I'll never teach a class. I might never teach a class, because even if a big brand, for instance, saw me because my work was great and they wanted me to teach a class, if I have never taught any classes, I'm probably going to be terrible.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the first time, I don't want to go live on Instagram because nobody's going to watch me. Well, that's probably good, because you're probably going to suck the first several dozen times. So if you have one or two people willing to watch you for that time, practice.
Yeah.
Do something, but it takes those positive steps forward to build the experience, which is going to start to build the muscle memory and that confidence.
Yeah, and realizing like if only one person's watching it, what if you change their life?
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I went live, I literally like showered, did my hair, put my makeup on, got an outfit, and now I have a thing called Business Breakfast in Bedhead where I literally roll out of bed and go live. And that actually built more connection with people. And I remember like after it started catching on, I was like, I should do this more professionally. And these shoulds I would tell myself of success means being this way.
Yeah.
When in reality, the more of my weird I let out and the more of like my authentic, just like randomness, the more I build connection and the more it helps change people's lives and businesses, which ultimately changes their bank accounts.
Yeah. Well, it adds that relatability, especially if they can see you when you just roll out of bed.
Yeah, like this is not my usual.
But then they also see you like this. Like they know that you're just not you actually do shower sometimes.
Sometimes.
And, so it's nice that they see all the sides of you.
Yeah.
People want to have that almost that voyeuristic look into other successful people's lives so that they know that like they have something to relate to. Be like, oh, they don't wake up looking perfect or have all the right things to say. Or it's nice to know that the people that are looked up to don't have it all figured out. But
not at all.
They can still be massively successful. It gives a lot of hope to a lot of people.
Yeah. Like I don't have everything figured out. And half the time I'm winging it. And,
Amen. I feel that.
Yeah, right? It's like, even like we were talking earlier and I was like, okay, Ryan's just as hot mess as I am. Like this is really like a sigh, like a deep breath of fresh air to realize that like everyone's just doing their best and taking one step at a time.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway from this is, even if you're a hot mess, the most important thing is just to get started.
Yeah.
Just start doing something, learn along the way. The ready, fire, aim approach.
Yeah. Like I remember hearing a statistic that baseball players hit a home run less than 1% of the time. And you don't see baseball players being like, well, if I can't hit a home run, I'm not going to do it. It's like,
they barely hit the ball.
Right. Like, I don't know baseball very well, but like the reality is, it's like, it's not about hitting a home run every time.
Yeah.
And taking that pressure off yourself to hit a home run and realizing that like just trying, just showing up, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of so many other people. Because people are stuck in the procrastination planning of like, I'll get it all figured out ahead of time so that there's no chance of messing up. But it is in the messing up. It is in the messy, immediate, imperfect action that the growth comes from.
Right.
Yeah.
I think baseball players, they have a good ERA? Is it ERA?
No idea.
ERA? So is that the pitchers? Is that pitchers? I don't know. Batting averages are like, if they hit it like 30% of the time, it's like pretty good or something.
Yeah.
Out of a fish out of water on this one with
I think we should become baseball players.
We should become baseball players. Yeah, I was thinking rugby too. Mob
baseball team.
Well, Dawn, it's been magical having you here. I love being around somebody so so open and honest. It's great.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys all so much for joining us today. Big round of applause for Dawn Bradley. You'll see more of her as we always do. And thank you so much for being here. And
thank you for having me.
Safe travels back to Canada.
Back to the Great White North.
The Great White North.
My moose is on its way.
Thanks for tuning in to Hair Hero. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. And don't forget to screenshot this episode and share it on Instagram, tagging us at Masters of Balayage. We'd love to see your posts and share them. Until next time, remember, be bold, be brave, be you. See you in the next episode.